A father says his son died after purchasing a pill on social media. Now his tragic loss brings a warning for other Texas families.
Nothing is ever going to be the same for us. And that's what I want to let parents know is this can happen in a split second.
We dig deeper into the deadly and growing problem of fentanyl overdoses across the state, the new safety measures some Texas police departments are taking now to try to save lives. Plus, hundreds of mentally ill inmates waiting in jail for a state hospital bed, why the numbers have gone up during the pandemic, and how state leaders could create a new statewide solution to fix the problem.
Produced from the Capitol in Austin and airing statewide, this is the award-winning State of Texas.
Hello, and thank you for joining us. I'm Josh Hinkle. Little blue pills. They look like painkillers, but they're actually counterfeit oxycodone tablets laced with fentanyl, a synthetic opioid up to 100 times stronger than morphine. Police say they're being sold across Austin and spreading into our suburbs, taking a deadly toll. So far in 2021, there have been 22 fatal overdoses involving fentanyl just in Travis County. If this trend continues, we are on track for a 25% increase over 2020. Nationally, the numbers are also spiking. The latest CDC numbers show that synthetic opioid deaths increased more than 38% in 2020 compared to the year before. Investigator Overdose first told us about the growing problem several years ago. Now she's discovered some police departments taking new measures to prevent tragedy.
Over here, boss.
This body cam video details a search warrant executed by Cedar Park narcotics detectives in South Austin in January. The target, Manuel Ramon Martinez.
He was very well armed. In fact, when we took him down, he was wearing a pistol.
Any kids?
My kids, yeah.
Okay, who else is in the house?
Just my kids and my girl.
Investigators say on the streets, he's known as Manny, a possible source of supply of counterfeit oxycodone pills that contain fentanyl, also known as blues or perks, like these small blue round pills. Federal court documents say he was selling on Snapchat. Undercover officers had him under surveillance for weeks and say one transaction was even made in front of his own kids.
The fact that it was easily accessible for these kids to just reach in and grab them is very scary for us.
Court documents say between March of 2020 and this January, there was a wave of overdoses and 17 deaths from counterfeit oxycodone and illegal prescription pills in Austin and surrounding cities.
This last 2 years, 18 months has probably been the busiest we've ever been. A lot of it has to do with the rise in fentanyl cases.
How can you tell that these pills are laced with fentanyl?
We personally can only tell through a field kit, a drug test kit, and then we send those to the lab. But for someone on the street, there's no way to tell.
Just in Cedar Park, they've had 6 suspected overdose deaths. Investigators are still waiting on toxicology reports. Across Williamson County, the numbers aren't so clear because the county doesn't specifically track fentanyl deaths.
Ready?
He was 19 and he was invincible to himself.
One of those deaths, Cameron Stewart.
Cameron was, it's hard to speak of him in the past tense still, was the most handsome, charismatic, funny human being I ever met in my life.
Normal, everyday, all-American kid.
We're going to meet the teacher.
Cameron was Becky and Dwayne Stewart's youngest son. He grew up in Cedar Park playing soccer, football, and running track.
These were his state track meet medals.
He was a champion hurdler and even ran during the Junior Olympics in 2017. His parents say the Cedar Park High School graduate talked about going to Angelo State to join his big brother, but he never made it. In March, after not responding to texts and calls, the Stewarts say they got worried and drove to his apartment in Leander.
Police went into his apartment and he was gone. And worst day of my life, of course.
The family says an autopsy and toxicology report showed it was an accidental overdose. They say he had taken a fentanyl-laced Valium pill.
I think he was just wanting a high, a temporary high, and quite honestly, he probably paid $10 for his death.
His parents say he had gone to rehab twice and was trying to clean up his life. He was going to church and spending more time with them.
This one right here is his last Christmas. And I have this sweatshirt, and I will probably never wash it again.
It doesn't have to be somebody who's having a problem with alcohol and drugs. It could be anybody.
Leander police continue to investigate Cameron's case.
Do you think he connected with someone over Snapchat?
Yes.
Yes.
Narcotics investigators say drug dealers are using social media to sell these pills. They shared an example with us from Snapchat. You can see the counterfeit pills and the going price. A Snapchat spokesperson says, "We strictly prohibit drug-related activity on our platform, aggressively enforce against these violations, and support law enforcement in their investigations." Regarding Martinez's case, investigators have yet to reveal how they believe he was able to use Snapchat to sell the counterfeit pills.
Got any knives or anything on you? No.
But he was charged with knowingly, intentionally, and unlawfully distributing a controlled substance which included a detectable amount of fentanyl.
We want to get it as fast as we can, and we want to get as much as we can off the street and be able to interrupt the flow of the distribution of these.
Law enforcement are not connecting Martinez to Cameron's death, and he's not being charged with any deaths linked to fentanyl-laced pills. Martinez declined an on-camera interview. His attorney says our justice system rewards those who created the opioid addiction epidemic and punishes the rest of us in a manner that neither prevents nor mitigates our struggle with addiction. If convicted, Martinez could face life in prison. There was a big push by lawmakers last session to increase criminal penalties in these types of cases. Coming up, a look at the law that just passed and details on the life-saving drug Cedar Park police always have on hand when they respond to overdose calls.
Imagine waiting for more than a year in jail for the mental health treatment you need to stand trial. It's the reality for hundreds of Texans right now, and the pandemic made it worse. Our ongoing investigation is coming up.